are now joined by Texas Tech head football coach Joey McGuire on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. When I say that, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, you kind of gave me chills, man. And I've said that a couple times to some guys, and I think they kind of laugh at me. But, this is a dream come true. You know me very well, and you know my heart, and you know what I've worked for. And so it's a dream come true. I'm so excited to be out here in Lubbock and in West Texas.
You mentioned yesterday when you said you've been waiting to say, you said Raiders, and you said Raiders to get some of the boosters and some fired up and to kind of start your press conference. Did you mean that as Texas Tech or just the chance to be a head football coach?
Well, really Texas Tech from the standpoint of my best friend played here. He's since passed away, but my best friend played here, and I've come out here so many times. And my sister went here. My brother-in-law, well, really two brother-in-laws. My nephews graduated from here. My daughter graduated from here. So I've been out here so many times and just love this place. And I knew the potential and the administration and the backing that they have, and the fan base is so passionate. And so I really meant it. I was really excited about being here. And then I wanted to make sure that they knew that I was one of them and that I wanted to be here. So that was definitely a reason I said it.
Joey, there was a time Matt Rule leaves for the NFL. You wanted a job at Baylor. There's no question about that. And then it didn't happen. Dave Aranda was hired. And I remember you and I don't know if you remember, sharing you a text about disappointment in career opportunities and that your time would come. At some point, your time would come. You decided to stay at Baylor. You remember that?
I do. Yes, sir, I do. And I felt, I really felt that was the place that I needed to be. I did. I had opportunities to leave. I'm just so, whenever I left yesterday, and you talking about a class act, the way I was able to leave, the way Dave Aranda said, go say bye to everybody. Instead of, just shuffling me out the door or anything like that, he allowed me to go say bye to all the people that I created relationships with. So that was awesome. And he had a huge smile on his face. But, forever grateful for, one, what he did for my son, and then two, the way he treated me whenever he came in, because he didn't have to keep me, and man, he just made such a huge impact. And I learned a lot from the 2 years under him also that's going to help me in this job.
So has it been awkward? I know you have to do what you have to do. It's a business. You have to go find a way to make Texas Tech football better. You have Baylor in 3 weeks, and I know that you're the head coach basically in waiting, whatever the term will be, because of what goes on now. But has it been awkward at all?
I know that week will be. Right now, getting ready for Iowa State and those guys, and then the next week with Oklahoma State, I can really concentrate, on getting to know the players here and then recruiting and finding a place to live here in Lubbock and all that stuff. So I think it will be, but right now, it's kind of business of what we've got to do and what we've got to bring here to Texas Tech.
You are, and I told a couple of people in the media, you're like, I use this phrase, stick your head in a tank of gasoline, light it with a match, full throttle. That's who you are. I like to use that phrase. Have you, in the last 3 or 4 days, ever had a point where you almost ran out of gas because of the adrenaline?
That's not true. I don't know if there's an E in that gas tank. At different times, whenever I did get through with the first interview, I came home and got to talk to Debbie about it. She probably wanted more information. I did kind of crash, but that's kind of how I normally am. There's a point to where it might be 1 o'clock in the morning, it might be 2 o'clock in the morning that I shut down, and then back at it, whether it's at 5 or 6, back at it. But I don't know if there's an E in this tank. And it's just because I love what I do. I love the people around me. I try to do that, and I hope everybody understands that at Baylor, that how much I appreciated them and love the relationships I built. and we're going to do the same thing here at Texas Tech of building those relationships and loving on players.
You saw what you did at Cedar Hill. You built them into a state power, and it was something that they can sustain. You saw how Coach Rule did it. You were there from basically day one with what he did at Baylor. Is that something you can learn from in what you're trying to do in Lubbock?
You know, I think I've learned from taking all of it. Cedar Hill, Crowley with Robert Woods and Cedar Hill, and then me being the head coach, and then Matt Rule and Dave Aranda. I mean, really learning from those guys in those situations, and then the experience that I have as a head coach is invaluable. And I think from day one coming in here, and then the process that we'll go through over the next couple of weeks will be very similar, because there's a lot of similarities. You know, we came in 2016 whenever I got hired, and there were two staffs on campus. The current staff getting ready for a bowl game, and then the staff Rule was building. And so very similar. And so I've been a part of that process, and so that's going to help. And then building a class is a little bit different. We have more commits, but, you know, when we built that class that first year, and that 2017 signing class, that was one guy. That was old Jalen Petrie. So been a part, very similar. The experience I have, I think, is going to benefit what we're going to do here over the next few weeks and over the next few months.
Yeah, and so my question as well is, Texas Tech, we know about, you mentioned Mike Leach, and they've had what Sonny Dykes on occasion was able to do, and he's a legend there. But they have really been through this stretch, and it's hard to imagine that they have not been in a moment, even though, since really the Big 12 had a championship game early on, and then when they brought it back. Why you? Why is Joey McGuire the right hire?
I think, one, because of the way that we're going to recruit and we're going to treat these kids. I think that it's going to be very attractive to keep the West Texas kids in West Texas. And then I think it's going to be very attractive to get the right kids from the rest of the state, whether it be Dallas-Fort Worth or Houston, East Texas, everywhere in between, because we're going to put a staff together that I learned, especially from Matt Rule, that as a staff, we're going to recruit the state of Texas. Not one dude, not one guy, but we're going to recruit as a staff. And so I think that I definitely and we definitely can do that. So I think that's a drawing point. And then, man, you've been around me. I pride myself, and I don't say that in a bad way or an ego way, but I love my players, and I would challenge anybody to find a player that wouldn't say, man, Coach McGuire coached my butt off. He might have been pissed off at times, and he might have been on my tail. But I know one thing, he loves me. And, man, whenever you bring that environment into a program, man, the sky's the limit. And they play out of their mind and play so hard because they care so much about you, and they care so much about their teammates. And so I think that we can do that here, and this could be a special place.
You know, you're beloved at Baylor, but all of a sudden when James Blanchard went with you, all of a sudden everything everyone knows what James can do, and you know that, and Coach Rule knew that, and you know when he came back. When there's a picture of you getting on an airplane with James Blanchard, I think all of a sudden, wait a minute, this is fighting words right now.
No doubt. Well, I've been around some great guys there, and I think anybody that does not, there's different definitions of insanity. One for me is people that do not surround themselves with other great people that can balance out necessarily their weaknesses or balance out their inexperience. And so if you're not surrounding yourself with great people that have certain traits of greatness and that can benefit your program, then that's a definition of insanity to me. And I'll tell you what, I'm full tilt all the time. Like you said, my hair's on fire, but I'm not insane. I'm going to surround myself with great people and let them do their job. And man, you talking about a dude that can recruit and spot talent, that's James Blanchard, and I'm glad he's a Red Raider.
Joey, you and I traded a text or two Sunday because it was getting to that point. Texas Tech was ready to make a decision. They were finishing up the interviews, and you were a little bit concerned about the possibility of distractions. Do you think that ever crept into the team at all, even when your name came up last week?
The one thing that Coach has done, and, man, it's so awesome to learn from those two men, but the one thing that Coach Aranda does is he's very transparent. He's very real. And man, just learned that, and I think I'm the same, but I'm going to take that with me. And so he's been talking up front, not hiding behind anything, whether it's him or anybody else. And so I think talking about that and putting that in front versus, the little whispers that go on in corners and everything like that allows you to keep it from being a bigger distraction than it is. If I will tell you this, if I did not have a relationship that I have with those players, then I think it would be. But I don't think there's a person on that team that was not excited for me to be a head coach.
I don't think there's any doubt, yeah.
From especially that senior group, Garrett's group, that was the first recruiting class of ours. Those guys were just, you talking about getting hugs that nearly squeeze the breath out of you. And with those players, they were so excited.
Joey, have they taken the picture yet with you and Jeff Traylor for next week's or next year's Dave Campbell's Texas Football Magazine?
Hey, I talked to Tepper this morning, man, and I keep challenging him. You think about that. So you've been a part of Texas high school football for a long time, man, just like me. And like, I know there's been different coaches in this state that are high school coaches that became head coaches. But two right now from Gilmer and Cedar Hill, I don't know if there's a better story. And I don't know if there's two that carry the THSCA flag like we do, that put it out front, and there's different people that might have said it, but I don't know if there's two men that live it more than us two.
Joey, you want to be the most competitive and toughest team. That's what you said. And every coach would like to do that. When will you find out if and when that is true?
Well, you start evaluating the current team, and you find those guys that can handle the adversity. And the first thing I'm doing, I'm meeting one-on-one with every kid and starting to develop those relationships. You and I both know whenever that off season starts, really in January and February. In February, we can really be around them in the mornings workouts. You find out and you start creating that. I was able to be a part of that at Cedar Hill. I can tell you can call every kid at Cedar Hill, and it started they're really going into off season of 2005. Our boot camp, they're going to tell you right now, we were really, really tough. And everybody looks around and goes, man, they had such great athletes. We were tough. We were an extremely tough football team. And I saw Matt Rule bring that and change, not that they weren't before, but it was a different brand of football. And so we were really, really tough. I don't know if there was a tougher defense in America than the 2019 defense at Baylor. As far as the way you play. And so we're definitely going to start working on that and bring that to Lubbock.
How much easier, and Joey McGuire, head coach at Texas Tech, and just a couple more questions, and we appreciate your time. How much, I'm not saying easier, but how much different is it now to rebuild, reload, or renovate a program, no matter what their record is or what their situation? There's coaching changes for reasons. Because of the early signing period, which is working to work, why you have to make decisions quicker, but also the transfer portal.
Well, we don't want to live there,
right?
Because I don't know if you can sustain a culture whenever it's kind of a free agency. I do believe that there are ways to do it. I like the grad transfers, and then if there's guys that want to come back to Texas, because you definitely want. There's guys that left and they maybe went up to a place that was 20 degrees all the time or really cloudy and all the time, so they might want to come home. and be back in the Texas weather and be back home around the people that they know and love. And so I think there's ways to do that, but I think you got to be real particular. We want to build this roster with high school players and build the brand and build the culture, and then you can sustain that success. I think you got to be real careful trying to sell your team out through the portal whenever you might only have that kid for a certain number of years and it's almost a free agent. You got to be real careful.
You wanted that job. You wanted the offer from Kirby Hocutt. When you did get it, when the call came, what was your reaction?
Well, luckily it was face-to-face, and, man, I just gave him a big hug. Him and Tony Hernandez, and just the whole committee was just so great whenever it was those two, whenever they asked me to be their head coach. And, man, I was so excited. I was so excited, and I just took a deep breath and thanked the good Lord, and then rolled my sleeves up and got here as fast as I could, and it's time to go to work.
What was your best memory at Baylor?
Man, there's so many good ones. I think one that I'll never forget is the end zone catch by Mims in 2018 whenever we beat Oklahoma State. And then it's funny, he throws the ball up in the air and we're probably going to get a penalty, and McGuire catches the ball. Any moment of 2019, that was such a magical year. The turning it back around this year has been incredible. But one of the coolest moments too was Dave Aranda awarding my son a scholarship. As a dad, that was really cool. So every moment, man. I love the 1-11 season. It wasn't fun, but the memories that were made with those kids. I mean, you think about being able to officiate a wedding for Sam Tecklenburg, and that relationship started in a 1-11 chaotic season and just built off of that, and so I've gotten so many texts from those old guys too that they're really excited.
I'll never forget the text you sent to me, and I think it might have been, I don't know when it was. You said, we're going to win a Big 12 championship. And I know that's what you want to now do in Lubbock. But I remember you sent me a text. Something was going on with that team, and I don't know if it was the bowl team or what. You said, we're going to win and compete for a big championship, and of course eventually played for one. And who knows, maybe they do it again this year.
Right.
You knew, you saw that, you could find it, you felt that, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, it was. I think it was the end of the 1-11, and
yeah, you guys were playing people hard. You got beat a couple. Yeah, you were playing people tough, even at that time.
I'll never forget it, because part of that was, you better get us now. You better get us now, because whenever this team finally understands and grows up and is the brand, they are the brand, then we're going to be really tough to beat. And I think it's definitely going to happen here in Lubbock, Texas.
Joey, thank you for your time. I'm proud of you. Congratulations. Go do what you do, which is always be winning and being the person you are. Thanks for your time, buddy.
Hey, man, stay in touch. You know what I think of you, and I'm such a huge fan of what y'all do. And you ever need anything, brother, just give me a call.
Joey McGuire, the head football coach at Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
All right, Joey McGuire with us, and I hope he answered some of the questions that some of you had, and he tried to answer as many of them. And I even asked him about last week in TCU, and he brought in Dave Aranda and how he has taken on the distractions of coaching searches, because he's dealt with it as well in a way that they made the players aware of what anything was going on, rather than behind the door whispering and pss, pss, all that kind of stuff. So that's Joey McGuire, the head football coach at Texas Tech. When we come back, we will continue. We'll hear from John Machota on the Cowboys. Anything, Paul, Craig, anything